Ukraine? Adam Schiff and the round mound to the gavel and they don't care about Ukraine when given the chance to participate, voting on military aid for Ukraine. They voted against it. The Obama administration denied all aid to Ukraine for 8 years after requiring that they disarm. We signed an agreement promising to defend them if they're attacked, and they were, and Russia annexed and took Crimea, and we didn't do a damn thing. And Trump somehow is now going to be impeached, or has been impeached, because he delayed aid that they eventually got. In a phone call that somehow magically has been referred to as dirt, even though that word's not even in the transcript. By the way, I want to go back to the FISA warrant story for just a second. I want to be specific about this. The FISA court, i.e. the DOJ, they have decided, they've admitted, that at least 2 of the 4 warrants to spy on Carter Page were illegal, which means that all evidence collected from that surveillance cannot be used. Now, I don't know when this was decided. It's about time that it has been announced. The Department of Justice believes it should have ended surveillance of Carter Page much earlier. Now, this is a fine time to admit this after all of this is indelible in people's minds, but they're admitting here that it was bogus. They're admitting that the evidence can't be used. They're admitting that they should have shut this surveillance of Carter Page down. And by the way, surveillance of Carter Page, he was never charged for anything. And the surveillance of Carter Page was simply a way to open a window to spy on the entire Trump campaign and Trump personally. But remember on whose watch all of this occurred. It occurred during the Obama administration. It occurred while Loretta Lynch was the Attorney General. It occurred while Comey was the FBI director. Top people in the Obama administration approved, coordinated, and covered up illegal spying on the Trump campaign. You want interference with an election? Try that. You want corrupting an election? You want meddling in an election? Try what the Democrat managers are doing in the Senate today. They are corrupting the very idea. They are corrupting the integrity and honor of presidential elections, much more than has ever been attempted or done, accomplished by the Russians. So this is a tantamount admission that Democrats interfered the 2016 and 2020 elections. The warrants to spy on the Trump administration were illegal. Now, who are these people? Who's Obama? Who's Loretta Lynch, James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, you name them? These are the same people who perpetuated the Russia hoax. The same media who has protected all of those involved, abused their power. And even now, the media has no interest in running this story. You will not see this story in New York Times, Washington Post. You won't see it anywhere in mainstream media. But what does it mean? It means that accusations the Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign are true illegally. Accusations of the Obama administration abusing its power are true, which is why Mueller had to be appointed. Mueller was an attack dog. His job was to take Trump out before any of this came to light. The attempt was to focus everybody's attention on what a scalawag Trump was so that we wouldn't learn what had actually gone on in the Obama administration, the Hillary Clinton campaign, the Democrat National Committee. The abuses of power of the Obama administration, the Clinton campaign, the Democrat National Committee had to be covered up. Country had to be distracted. That distraction, that cover-up is ongoing. It's now being called an impeachment trial in the United States Senate. You want abuse of power? You don't have it with Donald Trump. You've got it with all these people in the Obama administration. You've got it with James Comey, Clapper, Brennan. You've got it with Loretta Lynch. You've got it with all of these McCabe, Strzok, Smirk, and Page. If you want abuse of power, they have now admitted to it. Laws were broken, civil liberties were violated, and one little add-on to this, the Department of Defense may have used taxpayer money to pay one of the FBI informants, Stephen Halper. Stephen Halper is knee-deep in the effort to undermine George Papadopoulos and make it look like the investigation began when Papadopoulos started bragging about his knowledge that the Russians had a bunch of Hillary Clinton dirt. Stephen Halper, professor, Cambridge, UK, as an FBI informant, his job was to recruit members of the Trump campaign as sources in the run-up to the 2016 election. This comes from Senator Grassley. In a letter Wednesday, he asserted that it was unacceptable that the Department of Defense spent all of last year dodging his request for information about Halper's contest. Halper had two jobs. First was to try to get hired on the Trump campaign and thereby start contacting Russian friends of his and make it look like the Trump campaign was colluding, but Halper didn't get hired. So his next job was to recruit members of the Trump campaign, Trump foreign policy apparatus and so forth, and try to corrupt them as engaging in illegal contact with Russia. This is all coming, and now we find out the Pentagon paid. The Pentagon, the Department of Defense, paid Stephen Halper, not the FBI and not MI5. So it wasn't just the Obama DOJ, it was the Obama Department of Defense. Now, who do you have over there that might have been involved in this? Well, you got a bunch of generals that are never Trumpers and hate Trump to no end. All of this abuse of power, all of this meddling in an election. And by the way, meddling in the 2016 election and continuing this effort to overthrow it and to undermine Trump constitutes meddling in the 2020 election. Meanwhile, Trump is undergoing a Senate trial for all of this. Brief break, back with more after this. Yes. I've got that. Look, I can't do everything here in the first hour. I can't do everything in the first 20 minutes. Yeah, we've got Pocahontas. Elizabeth Warren has some people calling it her Joe the Plumber moment. I think it's just delicious what happened to her. And it's a teachable moment in and of itself, and it's coming up. I just want to say one more thing on this pro-life business, folks, because I made the point mere moments ago. Donald Trump, back in the days, hosting The Apprentice and in days prior to that, as a New Yorker, he was never known as a pro-lifer. And it was not specifically pro-choice. He was not an activist either way on the issue. But as a New Yorker, he took the path of least resistance. Woman's right to choose. Whenever it came up, that's what he was for. That was the path of least resistance. And this is important. Now, stick with me. It was the path of least resistance for anybody to take who wanted to stay out of that or any other political controversy. It's why people who were adamantly, publicly, proudly pro-life were so attacked. Now, look how this movement, though, has been overwhelmingly successful. If you go back, when this program started, back in 1988, the Republican convention 4 years later, 1992 in Houston, had to give way to pro-choice Republican women and had to give them a forum. In fact, Roger Stone's wife at the time, Ann Stone, was one of the leaders of the movement. And they were constantly pressuring Republicans. You had a bunch of pro-choice Republicans. Do you remember? I've told the story. I was a guest at a party hosted by a bunch of a Republican establishment couple. And there's a bunch of big-time Republican fundraisers. And one of them took me aside after dinner. So what are you going to do about the Christians? Remember this story? And I said, what do you mean? He said, the Christians, they're killing us. They're wiping us out. I said, what do you... Abortion, they listen to you, and you got to get them to calm down. We're never going to win elections. If this is something the Republican Party is identified with. And then the same people would hit me up about gun control. Now, here we are in 2020, and guess what? That wing, the so-called pro-choice Republican, well, you can't find it anywhere. All of those people, what are you going to do about the Christians? Meaning, how are you going to get this issue out of our party? One guy confided in me, and I'm making it up, got tired of his wife nagging him about it. Another guy said he didn't want to go to any more Republican conventions with pro-life people because they embarrassed him. But now, where are those people? I mean, the pro-choice Republicans may be still around, but they're docile, they're quiet, they don't make much of. And you know why? Because the Republican Party can't win anything without their votes. There are, at bare minimum, 24 million evangelical votes in America, and maybe more. And guess who owns them? And long before today, Donald Trump. Guess who didn't abandon Trump at any time during the presidential campaign 2016? Evangelical Republicans. Despite the best efforts of the drive-by media, the pro-choice Republicans, pro-choice Democrats, they couldn't. Why? Because those people know. They know where Trump is. They know where his heart is on this, despite what may be said on an indiscriminate video from years ago made exiting a talent trailer in Hollywood. I think it's an amazing transformation and success story. And all of those moderate Republicans, 1988, 92, 94, all of those people scared to death. The truth of the matter was the Republican Party was never going to win with just their votes. And the Republican Party was never going to win if they got their way and all these so-called evangelicals were tossed out of the party or somehow convinced not to vote Republican. Where would the party be today? Now everybody knows it. And you couple that group with the NRA, and it's no wonder the Democrats are frustrated beyond because they have tried to convince everybody that this country is pro-choice, that this country is Planned Parenthood, that this country is women's right to choose in a political sense, and they're nowhere near the truth. They're in a minority on these two, guns and life, like they always have been. Okay, let me get started on the phones here because it's Open Line Friday and always try to get a phone call in the first hour. It's Neil in Matthews, North Carolina. Great to have you. Hello.
Thanks for taking my call, Rush.
Yes, sir.
Listen, what has been glaringly overlooked in the Biden quid pro quo Ukraine situation is that Joe Biden was merely acting as a mouthpiece for President Obama. And in his own words, at the Council on Foreign Relations meeting, Joe Biden clearly established the fact. When Biden told the Ukrainian officials to fire the prosecutor or they're not getting their money, the Ukrainian officials immediately challenged him, said, "You have no authority, you're not the president," to which Biden answered with two words that implicate President Obama. Biden said, "Ask him." So
no, he said, call him.
Quid pro quo.
He said, if you don't believe me, call. No, that's all true. Every bit of that's true. Now, I happened to see the House managers making the case yesterday for all this. You know their version of that Biden admission to the Council on Foreign Relations? Biden knew the prosecutor was corrupt. Biden was trying to get the prosecutor fired. Biden did. Biden got what he wanted. Trump doesn't have the... They're trying to say that Biden was not trying to get rid of the prosecutor who was going after his son. They're saying that Biden was trying to get rid of a corrupt prosecutor, that Ukraine was... They have twisted this. They're lying about some... It's hard to keep up with it. But I get your point. I wish I had more time to make it, but we're out. Back in a sec. So I got an email during the break. Rush, I didn't hear what you said. Schiff said that Trump should be thrown out of office because he didn't follow talking points. Here's the quote. Schiff said, yes, I just want to underscore this. He's not obligated to use his talking points. He's not obligated to follow the recommendations of his staff, no matter how sound they may be. But what this makes clear is that Donald Trump was not conducting U.S. policy. It was his private personal interests he was conducting. If it was U.S. policy, he would have followed the talking points that Lieutenant Colonel Vindman says he prepared. But he didn't. So Schiff is trying to say Trump needs to be thrown out of office because the very fact he didn't follow the talking points put together by people he didn't trust means